The morning dawned soft and golden over the rolling hills outside Nottingham. Sunlight spilled across the green grass, chasing away the last shadows of the night. A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying the sweet scent of damp earth and wildflowers. On the very top of the highest hill stood a single ancient oak tree. His name was Granddad Ezekiel. He was a magnificent sight, with a thick, gnarled trunk that looked as though it had been carved by time itself. His branches reached towards the sky like welcoming arms, covered in a thick canopy of deep green leaves that whispered secrets to the wind. It was a peaceful place, a sanctuary from the bustling world below. Grandad Ezekiel was no ordinary tree. He was the last of the talking oaks, a remnant of a time when the world was filled with more magic. His voice was a low, rumbling sound, like the creaking of old wood and the rustling of 1,000 leaves all at once. He had seen generations of people come and go, watched the city of Nottingham grow from a small settlement into a busy hub. He held the wisdom of ages within his rings, a deep understanding of the world that went far beyond what could be read in books. He spoke only to those with a listening heart, offering comfort and guidance to anyone who sought his company. He was a guardian of the old ways, a quiet king upon his lonely hill. Among those who often sought his counsel was a young man named Lorcan Osborne Kelly. Lorcan was bright and full of ambition, a top student who had worked tirelessly to secure a good education in the city. The truth, Lorcan was a successful entrepreneur, CEO of Black Sheep Sea Moss stores. He lived in a small house with his mother and stayed with his father most weekends, always fun and busy and often loud with music playing. They loved him, he knew, but they didn't always understand the quiet worries that churned inside him. Lorcan was a thinker, a planner, a boy who believed that every problem had a logical solution. He filled his head with facts and figures, believing that knowledge was the key to overcoming any obstacle life threw his way. He was determined to build a better future for himself. Despite his sharp mind and his motivation, Lorcan carried a heavy weight on his shoulders. He was a young man with a secret fear, a shadow that he could not reason away with logic or facts. Every morning he would set out en route to the company Black Sheep Sea Moss stores, his heart filled with hope for the day ahead. He felt proud of his accomplishments and always had his father's support and parents' encouragement. So his natural gift to prove his worth was second nature. But as he approached his destination, a knot of dread would tighten in his stomach. His problem was not with his work, nor with his colleagues. It was with something that waited for him at the entrance, something that turned his courage into dust and sent him retreating back the way he came. Lorcan's problem was a dog. Not just any dog, but a large black dog with fur as dark as a starless night. It belonged to the owner of the workshop next to his store, and it was always there, lying by the gate, waiting. The dog was a fearsome creature in Lorcan's eyes. It would watch him with teeth, through unnerving eyes, and sometimes it would let out a low growl that seemed to vibrate through the very ground. For Lorcan, this dog was more than just an animal. It was a werewolf monster, a gatekeeper to his future that he could not pass. The sheer size of the dog, its dark and powerful presence, paralyzed him with a fear he couldn't explain or control. This fear had a real and damaging effect on his life. Day after day, Lorcan would walk to work, only to stop short of the entrance. He would stand there, his heart pounding in his chest, his palms sweating. He would try to reason with himself, telling his mind that it was just a dog, that it was probably harmless. But his body would not listen. The fear was a physical thing, a wall he could not climb. He would turn around and walk away, defeated. He missed days of work, making excuses being the boss. Lying to his employees about being unwell, he knew he couldn't keep it up forever. His dream was slipping through his fingers because of a shadow he couldn't outrun. One afternoon, after another failed attempt to get to work, Lorcan felt a deep sense of despair. The city felt too loud, the streets too crowded. He needed space to think, a quiet place where his worries might feel a little smaller. His feet, seemingly of their own accord, carried him out of the city and towards the familiar path that led up the hill. He walked slowly, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. The only place he felt he could go, the only one he felt might understand without judgment, was the one place he had always found solace. He was going to see Granddad Ezekiel. As he reached the crest of the hill, he saw the ancient oak waiting for him, its leaves rustling in a gentle welcome. The air up here was clean and fresh, and the world seemed to fall away. Lorcan sat down beneath the sprawling branches, leaning his back against the rough, sturdy bark of the trunk. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, letting the peace of the place wash over him. He didn't need to speak at first. He just needed to be there, in the presence of something so old and wise, hoping that some of its strength might seep into his own weary soul. He felt small and lost, a clever boy defeated by a simple fear. He sat there for a long time, the silence broken only by the whisper of the wind. Then a low, rumbling voice spoke, seeming to come from the very wood he leaned against. "The weight on your shoulders is heavy today, little Lorcan Kelly," Granddad Ezekiel said, his voice kind and patient. "Your mind is a busy hive of thoughts, but your heart is troubled. Tell me, what shadow follows you so closely?" Lorcan opened his eyes and sighed, the story tumbling out of him. He spoke of the dog, the fear, the missed days at work, and the shame he felt for being so strong yet very weak. He explained how he had tried to use logic to conquer his fear, but it had failed him every time. Granddad Ezekiel listened without interruption, his leaves rustling gently, as if nodding in understanding. When Lorcan had finished, the old tree was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again, his voice full of ancient wisdom. "You have a fine mind, Lorcan," he rumbled. "You have filled it with much knowledge, like a library full of books. But knowledge alone is like a single tree on a hill. It's strong, yes, but it can also be lonely. It cannot see what is happening in the rest of the forest. Wisdom is different. Wisdom is knowing that you are part of the forest, that there are other trees and creatures around you. You believe you are facing this dog alone," the tree continued, his voice a gentle murmur. "You are trying to fight it with the facts in your head. But you forget the most important thing. You are not alone. You have supportive parents who believe in you, colleagues who rely on you to lead. This supports you. You have friends. Have you told any of them about this great fear? Have you asked for help? Sometimes the greatest strength is not in facing a fear by yourself, but in allowing someone to stand beside you while you face it. That is the wisdom of the forest. We trees, we grow together, our roots intertwine. We hold each other up in the storm." Lorcan listened, and the tree's words settled deep within him. He had been so focused on solving the problem himself, on using his own intelligence, that he had completely forgotten about the people in his life. He had seen asking for help as a sign of failure, a confession that he wasn't smart enough or brave enough. But Granddad Ezekiel was showing him a different way of seeing things. It wasn't about being weak, it was about being wise enough to know that some connections are sources of power. Knowing facts was one thing, but knowing that people cared for you was a different, warmer kind of knowledge altogether. A seed of a new idea began to sprout in his mind. A profound sense of calm settled over Lorcan as he sat under the wise old oak. Granddad Ezekiel's words had not magically erased his fear, but they had changed it. They had taken his big, monstrous fear and made it feel smaller, more manageable, his father once said, in his Jamaican Granny King accents. Pick up a rock and lick the dog one time in its jawbone. He remembered the laughter they shared. The fear was still his, but he no longer felt he had to carry it all by himself. The thought of sharing his burden, of simply telling someone what he was going through, felt like opening a window in a stuffy room. It was a simple idea, yet it felt revolutionary. He wasn't just a clever boy against a scary dog anymore. He was Lorcan Kelly, and he had people who would always help him. He stayed on the hill until the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. He thanked Granddad Ezekiel, his voice filled with a gratitude that went deeper than words. The old oak simply rustled its leaves, a quiet gesture of farewell and encouragement. As Lorcan walked back down the hill and towards the city lights, he felt different. The heavy dread that had followed him for weeks had lessened. replaced by a fragile but persistent flicker of hope. He wasn't striding with confidence just yet, but he was walking with purpose, a plan forming in his mind, a plan that involved more than just himself. The next morning, Lorcan woke up not with dread but with determination. He got dressed for work, his heart beating a little faster than usual, but this time it was with nervous energy, not pure terror. He knew what he had to do. He walked his usual route, but when he got to the corner before the dog, he picked up the biggest stone and didn't stop to hesitate as the dog was drawing closer. He raised the hand as the dog reached below his feet. In the moment, his whole world frozen, the scream of laughter busting forth in the next breath. The toothless jaws that now flapping, he thought, "That's why you're angry, you're a toothless dog." He pulled out his phone and called his dad. With a shaky voice, he told him the truth. He explained about his paralyzing fear of the dog and why he had been missing work and acting strange. He braced himself for disappointment or anger, but was met with understanding instead. His dad simply said, "Kiss me, Granny," followed by laughter. His dad always told it how it was. Very simple but effective. The black dog lifted its head and watched. Lorcan felt a surge of courage. Granddad Ezekiel was right. He was still scared, but he was not alone. The dog gave a small, quiet whine and lay its head back down. It was a small step, but for Lorcan, it was a giant leap. He knew it would take time, but with the wisdom of an old tree and the help of a kind, loving parents, he had found the path forward. He was ready to try again, one day at a time, knowing that true strength was not in being fearless, but in finding the courage to face your fears alone or with others' help and support. My dad calls it believing in each other's ability to belong. Action is love and planting seeds. In whomsoever garden you never plan to sit, enjoying the shade, is just that, the end.